In these NBA Finals, we are seeing one of the most dominant forces in league history. Los Angeles is the home of past greatness and present excellence, powered by the best big man of his era. Shaquille O'Neal's legend is still in the making. But now, for the third straight year, he is imposing his will and skill upon the NBA Finals.
Shaq has just dominated. It's like a man against boys here tonight.
Rebound down to O'Neal. O'Neal going up, and he slams it. Oh, wow, Shaquille O'Neal with a ferocious jam.
Because he seems so unstoppable, the outcome of the series seems inevitable. Another conference champion cast aside. Another Finals MVP award. Another Lakers title. Can New Jersey do anything about it? Game 3, next.
This is the NBA on NBC.
The NBA Finals have come to a revitalized New Jersey Meadowlands for the first time. The Nets hope a change of venue can transform their fortunes, but only 2 teams in Finals history have come back from 0-2 deficits to win the championship, and none in the last 25 years. To do it, Jason Kidd and the Nets will have to find an answer for Shaquille O'Neal's dominating play, which has defined the series thus far. Memo to the Nets: good luck. And hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Costas, joined in a moment by Tom Tolbert, who used to have to guard Shaquille O'Neal in practice at Orlando. This no doubt hastened Tolbert's retirement. And unless something changes here in a hurry, Shaq and the Lakers are about to retire the Nets from the NBA Finals. The big guy is averaging 38 points and 14 rebounds, tossing in 5 assists a game, while shooting 58% from the field and even 69% from the free throw line, which leads Phil Jackson to view tonight's Game 3 this way.
You know, this is a game we call, you know, putting the lid on the coffin. Basically, you can't pound the nails in yet, but you really put a team to sleep if you win this game, and so this is how critical the game is to us.
All right, Tom, Phil Jackson is talking about wheeling out the coffin. What can the Nets do to keep the Undertaker at bay here?
Well, I think what they have to do is say, look, we've been written off by everybody, and most people probably have us being swept. What we have to do is not worry about what goes in the basket, what doesn't go in the basket, but can we look ourselves in the mirror at the end of the game and say, you know what, we dove after loose balls, we boxed out, we ran as hard as we could back on offense and back on defense. If you can do that, you can live with yourself. But with regards to Shaq, and you can't let this guy do what he's been doing, Bob. It's just impossible. 40 points, 8 assists. You got to take one or the other away. You can't let him yo-yo you. So either you double team Shaq, which I would do, and make him try to get 13, 14, 15 assists, or you just let him score his 45, but don't let anybody else get off. Tough task.
One way or the other, though, they're home now. They've got to get off to a better start. In the first 2 games in L.A., they shot terribly in the first quarter, a combined 25%.
And I think if you don't pay that much attention to what you're doing out there shooting, sometimes things come easier. You hustle, you get layups, you get fouled, you go to the free throw line, you get rebounds, laying back in. That helps your free throw, or helps your field goal percentage immensely.
Okay, Pat Croce is back now at the NBA Finals. Last year, he was present as the president of the Philadelphia 76ers. And in fact, Croce's team took Game 1 from the Lakers in LA before falling in 5 to the eventual champs. This year, Pat is our man on the scene. Let's go down to the floor and join him. As I remember last year's Finals, Pat, even though your team lost 4 of the 5 games, most of those games were very close and could have gone either way.
Hello, Bob, and you're right. Last year, we won the first game. Allen Iverson played out of his mind, and we had Game 2, but Derek Fisher throws that 3 in. We had Game 3, but Horry throws his 3 in. And we contained Shaq a little while, but the entire team beat the Sixers last year.
Pat, are you up for the game? Are you energized in any way?
I love being on this dance floor. Not only as a fan, but every team that gets on this floor at this time of the year has a chance for rings, a parade for their city, and to be the best basketball team on the planet. What better name is that?
All right, one last question. Todd McCullough was your player last year with the 76ers. Of course, you also had Dikembe Mutombo to try to contend with Shaq. Have you spoken with McCullough at all during this series?
I have. And you know he's frustrated, you know he's disappointed, because here's an overachiever. He works really hard at what he does, but he needs help. As you said, Dikembe Mutombo needed help last year. He needs help, as Tom said, to front Shaq, to help Shaq, to hold Shaq, to hack Shaq, whatever you can do. Todd needs help.
Well, nothing's worked so far. Still to come, we'll hear more from Phil Jackson. Who'd win a matchup between his 90s Bulls and his turn-of-the-century power in Los Angeles? That's among the topics when we talk with the Lakers coach. Plus, Ahmad Rashad's conversation with LA's two superstars. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
The Los Angeles Lakers have acquired a 24-year-old superstar.
The Charlotte Hornets have traded Kobe Bryant to the Lakers.
I'm the big brother. He's the little brother.
Kobe on the move. Loud throw.
The NBA Finals pregame show is brought to you by United, making travel easier for over 75 years. We are United.
Back at the Meadowlands, we now welcome in Ahmad Rashad, who spent part of last week in Los Angeles talking with the two big guns for the Lakers, Kobe and Shaq.
I did, Bob. I was hanging with them while you were at the Polo Lounge. Yeah. You know, it was back in 1996 that Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant both joined the Lakers. Since then, they've become the NBA's most dominating duo. But the two stars have also had some ups and downs in their personal relationship, especially last season when they had a much publicized rift. This year, they put it all behind them, and now the tandem of Shaq and Kobe is just 2 wins away from their 3rd straight championship.
Do you feel like, with the two of you, you guys are unbeatable?
I feel that way, yeah. It's just an understanding that we had. And we just play so well together.
So much said about the relationship between you and Shaq. Came to a head last season. How has that developed?
Shaq, he's the big brother, and I'm the little brother.
I'm the big brother, he's the little brother. You know, when you're in a big brother-little brother relationship and the younger brother is coming into his own, you got to guide him a little bit. You got to guide him, you know, you got to take him to the park and fight with him. Then when he can fight on his own, then you say, all right, go ahead, beat him up.
Last year was just something that we had to go through just to grow as individuals and to grow as a team. And I think if anything, it brought us closer together, and our relationship now is the best it's ever been.
It seemed to me that the culmination of your friendship with Shaq came about before Game 6 with Sacramento, when at 2:30 in the morning, you called Shaq. What was that all about?
You know, my mind was on the game. You know, we had a huge challenge ahead of us. That was to win 2 straight. And I just wanted to give him a call, see if he was thinking about the game. And if he wasn't, I just wanted to wake him up and let him know I was.
He was like, let's make history. I was like, all right, I'll be ready. I know he was going to be ready.
Grew up in New Jersey. You're going back as a champion, trying to win another championship. What's that mean to you?
Kobe got the win in his hometown last year. I had the opportunity to win in my hometown this year. It'll be fun. All my relatives are there, where I was born and raised. Everybody's going to be there watching me. Hopefully I can win number 3 for them.
While Shaq is in New Jersey, he says he'll find some time to pay a visit to Newark and drop in on his grandfather and his great-grandmother, but he won't have time for everybody. He has more than 200 relatives in the area, which means a lot of tickets. But now, these guys are legitimate friends now. It's almost like when you first move into a neighborhood and you don't get along really well with the other guy. They are tight now because I think they both realize that they can't do what they want to do in basketball without each other.
I would agree. I mean, when you look at them, even going back to last year, you know, Kobe was making little jabs at Shaq that he wasn't in shape. And you look at what Kobe said about, or Shaq saying about Kobe, talking about Gary Payton. Look, he would pass the ball. Maybe we need someone that would pass the ball. I mean, it was very subtle stuff. But I think they realized they're the 2 best players, one of the most dominating players ever to play the game in Shaq. And then you have Kobe, maybe the best all-around player in the game. They can't do it without one another.
You know, Ahmad, just a few months ago, Shaq was saying that when Phil Jackson leaves, and that's just a few more years at the end of his Laker contract, when he goes, I go. But this week he told you something entirely different.
He has totally changed all that. As long as I've known Shaq, he is more serious about basketball right now in his career, and he told me he wants to play 10 more years.
and he's so much better than when he was. When I played with him as a rookie in Orlando, he was the rookie. His footwork wasn't near what it is now. His passing wasn't near what it is now. I mean, this guy is a very good basketball player. Everybody wants to just give him credit for his power, but he's a good player around the hoop, aside from just his power.
Behind us, as Tom was making his comments, the New Jersey Nets coming out of their locker room and onto the floor to warm up. Obviously a much different reception than what they were met by at the Staples Center. And as we turn our attentions now to the Nets, Peter Vesey has been talking to the New Jersey players. Pete, what's their mindset tonight?
Well, Bob, they're thinking about thinking less and reacting more. They're thinking that they're ecstatic to be home, that they're going to feed off the energy of their crowd. They're thinking that they have to attack Shaq. He's only had 2 fouls in each of the first 2 games, but they have to attack him not only from the center position, but from all the positions, a la the Sacramento Kings. Problem is, Bob, they don't have one-on-one guys other than Jason Kidd to some extent and Jefferson, so they're thinking they have to develop those skills real fast. And they're thinking they have to develop an inside game, which they really don't have real fast. They're thinking that they're praying, actually, that Kobe Bryant tries to win the MVP starting tonight and takes the ball away from Shaq. And also they're praying, Bob, that nobody says anything remotely disrespectful about Shaq. Not even you, not Tolbert, nobody.
Nobody.
You know what happens.
All right, well, we'll see. I haven't received the memo, but I guess anything to change their fortunes. Our thanks to Peter Vesey. You know, when you think about it, going back to the last couple of years when the Lakers won their first 2 championships, Indiana could have won each of the first 2 games in L.A. They did win 2 of the 3 games in Indiana, and the game they lost went to overtime. Philly split the first 2 games in L.A. The Nets have not really been within hailing distance. Even when they got close a couple of times in L.A., you never felt like they had a chance to win the game.
Peter said that they would be praying that nobody said anything about Shaq. I think they're praying for more than that.
Well, I'm telling you, this is not the best time of year to start developing stuff. If you don't have it by now, you're probably never going to have it. One thing they need to do is shoot the ball before the Lakers get the defense set up. They have, whether it's a layup or a 20-footer or a 10-footer, you get down the court, and before the Lakers defense gets set up, you shoot the basketball, because that's their best chance to score.
I talked to Jason Kidd, Bob.
More to come from the Meadowlands. As we get set for Game 3, we'll hear from Phil Jackson with the Lakers attempting to move a step closer to a 3rd consecutive championship. The Nets, on the other hand, have a more modest goal, try to make this series competitive with a win tonight. We'll be right back. Game 3 coming up. Well, Phil Jackson presided over 2 separate Chicago Bulls three-peats, and he's now on his way, apparently, to making it 3 titles in his first 3 seasons with the Lakers. So comparisons are inevitable between his teams and their greatest stars. That was part of the conversation when I spoke with Jackson earlier today. By consensus, Michael Jordan is the greatest player who's ever played in the NBA. But somebody could mount an argument that if you just want to win a championship, the most dominant player of the modern era is Shaq. So if you had the 2 of them, you can only have one. Some people might actually take Shaq, even though it seems like sacrilege. What do you say?
I said that question was posed to me not long ago, and I said, yeah, stab me in the back. I want to make a distinction between 2 of the greatest players I've coached, but the reality is that Shaq is so dominant, you always have an overmatch. You can always draw a double team. You can almost always get a shot for somebody because he's going to double team. The drawback about that is that he's got to have the ball put in his hands, whereas Michael can get it and take it 90 feet and develop something from within that aspect of bringing it up the court and finding an operating space. So they're both great. I think that, you know, the big key is that Shaq's starting to make free throws. Now he's learned how to do it. Now it's unstoppable, you know, really, if he makes his foul shots.
When people debate the greatest teams of all time, one argument that always comes up is, all right, the Bulls were sensational, but in the finals they never had to meet a team with a dominant center. So what happens if the best of your Bulls teams, whichever year you choose, goes up against the Lakers with Shaq? What happens?
Very difficult for that team.
For the Bulls?
Yeah, real difficult. We did beat Orlando with Shaq, swept them. They had gone to the finals the year before, so they were the Eastern Conference champions, but It would be very difficult, you know, because we didn't like to double team. That Chicago team wanted to stay pretty solid defensively, and the only thing we could do was put pressure, which is what a lot of teams try to do to us with the Lakers now.
So interesting stuff, as Jackson says that his old Chicago Bulls teams would have a tough time with his present Lakers. At halftime, more with Jackson. He'll talk about his own standing as a coach and how long he plans to remain on the bench. How long do the New Jersey Nets plan to remain in this series, Tom? I guess we'll know shortly.
Well, if you're the New Jersey Nets, you don't look at it as trying to get back in the series by winning the game. You can't look at the game and say we're down already 2-0. You can't look at it at halves. You have to go quarter by quarter. It has to be, we got to have a great quarter. Let's rebound. Let's have high intensity. Let's go out there and just give it everything we have, and let's see where we end up.
This stuff is speculative. There's no way to know for sure. But do you have a sense that New Jersey's resolve has been diminished by the first two games?
I think they know deep down inside that the Lakers are a better team. I think if they answered honestly and they maybe removed themselves from their body, they would say they're the better team. But on the court, you forget about that. You just go hard as you can and see what happens.
And they will have the home crowd behind them tonight and Wednesday and Friday if they can push it that far. We're closing in on tip time. Coming up, we'll hear from Marv, Bill, and the Snapper. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Too much Shaquille O'Neal. You know, he's a monster. That's all I can say about him. I don't know what to do against him right now. You know, he's just a dominant player. I don't know what to really do against Shaq right now.
Under the 2-3-2 finals playoff format, games 3 and 4 will be here in the Jersey Meadowlands. Game 5 as well on Friday, if necessary. The Lakers leading 2-0 as we get set for game 3. And of course, it will be called by Marv Albert, Bill Walton, and Steve Snapper Jones. Take it, Marvelous.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. And the major question, guys, going into tonight's game 3, do the Nets have any answer at all for Shaquille O'Neal? To this point, over the first 2 games, Bill, he has just killed them in every phase of the game.
Marv, I think we're looking at one of the biggest mismatches at the center position in the history of the NBA Finals. New Jersey has absolutely no answer for Shaq, who's able to get what he wants when he wants. He's throwing it down with regularity. In transition, Shaq in such a zone, every ball coming his way. Will somebody please step in front of this guy and take a charge? Shaq also anchors the league's best defense, regularly sending everything back. He's dropping dimes and an offense is flowing like a river. When the Swarm finally gets there, he's gracefully laying the ball off to teammates who are knocking down wide open shots here. Now, the Lakers have been unopposed here. In game 1, Shaq just did absolutely everything. Amazing as it seems, he was even better than the superb performance from game 1. 8 assists, it's even more than Jason Kidd, and 8 dunks. Lack of opposition from New Jersey has been quite appalling here. They've really got to wake up, and they better do it quickly. Otherwise, the only challenge for Los Angeles is going to be the standard of historical excellence.
This is amazing. Bill always bringing us the proper historical perspective. Now, aside from the problems that the Nets have had with people like Shaq and Kobe, over the first 2 games, the Nets shooting ice cold 39% and 35%. A total of 25 missed layups in the 2 games. We talked about the poor shooting with Nets head coach Byron Scott.
Right now, we don't have the confidence in our shots. You know, guys are wishing that wishing when they shoot the ball that it goes in. You hope that the difference in the arenas, that the comfort of your own confines that you have at home will change that.
And home cooking has been very good for the New Jersey Nets. You take a look at their playoff record, and you can see they're an outstanding ball club here in the Meadowlands. They're 10 points better in scoring points. Their percentage is up. Their free throw percentage is up. So they have to feel very good about who they are and what they are. And the best thing about it is they left those bad shooting Twins in Los Angeles. Watch out, guys. We got a game today.
All right, so coming up momentarily, game 3 of the best of 7. And once again, the Nets must contend with the most dominating player in the game.
What can I say, guys? Too much Shaquille O'Neal. You know, he's a monster.
Jason, what do you guys think when you see Shaq go out of the game?
Go out of the game. Hopefully he keeps walking. But he doesn't. He sits right down, unfortunately.
We are back at Continental Airlines Arena and moments away from game number 3 for the introduction of the starting lineups. Let's go to the public address and Rick Zalzer.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Here's the starting lineup for the Los Angeles Lakers. At 1 forward, number 5, Robert Horry. At the other forward, number 17, Rick Fox. At center, number 34, Shaquille O'Neal. At 1 guard, number 8, Kobe Bryant. At the other guard, number 2, Derek Fisher. And the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, Phil Jackson.
What a play by Kidd. He's in the zone. Send it in, Kmart. Oh, what a play. How to finish. Van Horn, a jumper for 3. Nothing short of sensational. Just remarkable basketball. The X factor for the Nets. Oh, this place is exploding. Fans on their feet.
Fans, for the first time in our house, the NBA Finals! Right here, right now, the starting lineup for your New Jersey Nets. At 1 forward, 6'10", in his 5th year out of Utah, number 44, Keith Van Horn. At the other forward, 6'9", in his 2nd year out of Cincinnati, number 6, Kenyon Martin. At center, 7 feet tall, in his 3rd year out of Washington, number 11, Todd McCullough. At 1 guard, 6'5", number 30, in his 6th year out of Villanova, Harry Giddens. And at the other guard, 6'4", and a cow, number 5, Jason Kidd. Your Nets are coached by Byron Scott.
Well, this crowd is into it. The Lakers hoping to take them out early. And for more on the Lakers, direct from the Pyramid in Memphis to the New Jersey Meadowlands. Let's go to Jim Bray.
All right, thank you very much, Marvel. I spoke to Phil Jackson before the game, and I asked him if he had any doubt about the outcome of this series, and surprisingly, he said yes. I then informed him that none of his players shared that same feeling. He said, well, they shouldn't, but me as the coach, I have to be concerned with the unforeseen. What if Shaq or Kobe twists an ankle tonight? It's doubts like that that I have, which I must be prepared for. He then went on to say, should we win Game 3? A lot of those doubts will be erased. Let's go over to Lewis Johnson with the Nets.
Okay, Jim, thanks a lot. Well, I talked to Jason Kidd this morning at the Nets practice facility, and he said in this critical Game 3, his team needs more concentration instead of relaxation because playing relaxed is not what got them here. In terms of his teammates that are struggling to shoot, he said, you know, they cannot be afraid to fail or get embarrassed in these NBA Finals. They have to keep shooting and believe that the shots will fall tonight in this big game. Ultimately, Kidd said, the Nets have to throw the relaxed mentality out of the window, acting like there's nothing to lose because he said they do have something to lose. Mark?
Thanks, Lewis. And there is a pattern developing here. The Nets open up shooting poorly, fall behind by 20 plus, and then try to rally back. And that pattern has not worked for the New Jersey Nets. The officials, Dick Bavetta, Bob Delaney, Dan Crawford, Some of the net players waving to the crowd. Kenyon Martin wants them to keep